Good morning, everybody. It's 10:30, a little bit beyond. Let's get started with our resident meeting, brought to you from the Longwood Room and also being televised to be shown live on Channel 3. It also is recorded and will be available for viewing on our resident app by this evening, I believe. So welcome, everybody. Do we have some newcomers here that we'd like to introduce?
Richard Levine? Richard Levine.
Hi, Richard. Very nice. Richard and
Phyllis.
Phyllis Levine. Thank you. They're in Villa 146. We also, I'll mention the other newcomers that I had, Leslie and Lynn Kramer in Villa 150, and Jeff and Carol Baird in D is in Dog 200. Those are the on-campus new members that we know of. I want to particularly welcome, certainly Joey, and our new sales director, Megan Williams, who will be talking to us probably in a little bit, and also Wendy Gashlin, who we've been introduced to before, who has a new title, Director of Health and Wellness, I understand. So welcome to both of you. As usual, I'm going to defer to Joey. We have lots of new information to hear about from him. Then I'll go over the council meeting, not the meeting, but highlights from the council and other things that are of resident import. Okay, so Joey, it's all yours. You don't want to go over here.
I make that with my head. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me in the back okay? Yes, all right. So I'm going to give myself a pat on the back right out of the gate. Today's slides, Sue already has printed copies and they're already on Touchdown. So anybody watching at home that might have some trouble seeing this come through on the screen, you could look along on Touchdown as well. So I got the slides up there. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Got a full agenda today for you. I did take some constructive feedback and have done put my PowerPoint through a bit of a diet. So I'm trying to be a little bit more streamlined about this. But every time I go on a diet, home office sends me a few more things to add. So that's quite all right. But we're going to move along here. So I usually lead Living Life Space, mission, vision, values, our strategy, but ultimately right now for us it boils down to this slide, which is our balanced scorecard, which focuses on the big four items, right? Team members, customer, you, occupancy, and financial, and that we have specific metrics for each one of those areas that we're monitoring, and I'll give you updates today as to how we're doing at a community level, and then briefly touch how we're doing on a regional level and also on an enterprise-wide level. So team member experience. Really where we're looking at is our team member engagement score. That comes from the survey that we do twice a year. We monitor our retention and we look at our turnover. And those are rolling throughout, that looks back 12 years to see how we're doing statistically. We have goals to reach both for the short term in 2023 and then also best in class, ultimately where the leaders in our industry are and where we ultimately envision ourselves. We talked about this at last month's town hall, so I won't dwell too much on this, but we did get our results back. We saw a movement from 75% engagement to 77%, but we fell short of our goal of 81%. It is still good progress, and we got a lot of good feedback from our survey from our team members, and that's what I'm going to jump into. So the past few weeks, we got all of the results. Lots of numbers to pour through, a lot of good information, but we really did need to do a little bit of a deeper dive into those results. So what we've been doing is what we call the LifeSpace Listen sessions, which is basically a focus group. Get a small group of team members together and put forth some more questions to really discuss and talk about the results. Because when someone says communication is poor, then we need to understand what are their expectations from a communication perspective, so that we can develop action plans that are actually meaningful, move the needle, because we're going to check every 6 months as to how we're doing. So we keep it to a limited number of items. We can't do all of the things all at once, but it also has to be meaningful. So we did our life space listen sessions. We had a couple of focus groups, got a lot of good feedback, and ultimately what we've come up with are 3 items that we're going to be working on. One is requiring structured monthly department meetings. Now, that's not to say our departments don't meet, they do, but it's various levels, some more formal, some informal. Essentially what we're gonna do is standardize the agenda. Here are the items that every single department has to cover, and then there's room for the department-specific items. There has to be some sort of employee recognition aspect to it, some celebration, maybe some food involved, but we need to have that formal setting, which is what we're going to implement. Our team members are also asking for faster communication. The email is not a great way for them. What we're finding is folks aren't checking email throughout the day, so they want a text-based system. So we're rolling out a system called Text-em-all, and that's basically going to allow us to push text messages to team members. Obviously, we don't want to over-inundate them because then they're going to go deaf to those messages, but you know, say we have an ice cream truck out front, let's send them a reminder to come out. If we have a department meeting, send them a text that day, say, hey, remember you've got a department meeting. Open enrollment reminders, things like that we can push out really fast, small text messages, but staff can get it and hopefully respond quickly to that. They've also asked for better recognition, so we're gonna roll out a recognition program for our team members. I'm stealing this entirely from Westminster in the sense that we're gonna have cards that residents, team members, physicians, families can fill out. And it's basically asking, what did a team member do that went above and beyond the call of duty? Not just their job, because I'm glad when they do their job and I want to know about that, but really what was above and beyond. We're going to collect those over the course of a month. We're going to put together a committee of residents and team members to review those. We'll select 5 really meaningful stories so we can share that at the department meetings. Those team members will get a gift card, probably $100. And then from those 5, we're going to select 1 team member of the month. And then once we have 12 months of team members, we're going to select a team member of the year. And ultimately, the team members on the committee are winners of team member of the month or team member of the year, and try and make it organic so they're selecting themselves. It's not just a management function. Management will be present because I want to make sure things are done equitably. You know, we need to make sure the night shift gets recognized, and we need to make sure, you know, back of house culinary gets recognized. So we have some jockeying to do. But if that's something you hear and you go, hey, that might be kind of interesting to be a part of, let me know, because ultimately I'm going to be doing kind of a call for volunteers to flesh out that committee. So those are the 3 specific things we're going to implement right away and hopefully get kind of ingrained into our culture so that come August, our team member results, you know, that gets us from that 77 to 81% from team member engagement. And ultimately those efforts over time will hopefully improve the retention and turnover rates for us. So moving along to the customer and resident experience. So from a scorecard perspective, last month we did the resident survey. So that's the Net Promoter Score, NPS is the real big measure that comes out of that. And we have those results, and I'm gonna go take a deep dive into that today with you. So overall, Village on the Green score is a 33. This is your Net Promoter Score that we often hang our hat on. This is a decline of 8 points from 2022, the September survey. It is actually almost a return to where we were in, I think it was April of 2022. I think there's some reasons for that. If you look at the number of respondents we had in this last survey, it was 192 folks, which is really good. But that was an increase in 128 participants compared to September. So what does that tell me? September must have been like 94 participants overall. That's a pretty small sample size. So yes, we went up in September and we were celebrating that. When we start to dive into it, how good of a job did we do in making sure everybody was participating and we were hearing from everyone? So I think we did a much better job with the 192 respondents this time around. From an overall percentage-wise, it's about 68%. I don't necessarily think that's a super fair percentage for us because we count the residents in the health center who've had a stay. Now, if you remember, our health center, we do a lot of short-term stays. Folks who are coming from outside of the community, who are here for a couple of weeks for rehab and then go home. We count them in our sample size. I think that skews us a little bit. We actually do another survey for those folks, a discharge survey. So a couple days after they go home, we ask them how was their experience, and there's a third-party company that does that. So I, just speaking transparently, I have advocated that we remove those folks from the sample size because they're not experiencing the dining, they're not experiencing the lifestyles. They have a very health-centric view of it. So it's still valid feedback, but it shouldn't be kind of lumped in with our net promoter score. And I think you'd see our percentage rise overall because 192 on this campus is a pretty good percentage. So overall, so net promoter score, that you get thrown into 3 buckets, right? You're a promoter, you're passive, or you're a detractor. What that means to, numerically, if you were to rate a question a 9 or a 10, you're a promoter. If it's anything 4 or below, you're a detractor. And if it's that in the middle, you're a passive, okay? What they're saying is, if you're a 9 or a 10, the likelihood of you saying to someone out on the street that this is a great place to live is very high. If you're passive, you're probably not gonna say that it's great, but you're probably not gonna say that it's terrible. If you're a detractor, you're more likely to say, man, I'm having a terrible experience, right? So this NPS score's got all this formula that throws all these numbers together to give us this score. But ultimately for me, when I'm looking at our results, and as I start to break them down for you, we're looking to see who could we move from a detractor to passive? Who could we move from a passive to a promoter? Where do we need to focus our attention? Where will we see the biggest kind of result here in order to improve our score? Any questions about that slide? So this is NPS score by level of living. On the left-hand side there is your aggregate VOTG. The first navy blue is April 2022. The light blue is September 2022. And then the gray is April 2023. So that's the most recent result. So overall, you see our score going from 29 to 41 to 33. Then you break it down by level of care, right? So you see the independent living clump, AL, memory care, and skilled nursing. So you can see some disparity there once we start diving into by level of living. Overall memory care very high, skilled nursing higher than IL, but not necessarily trending in the right direction. AL fairly stable, and then you can see the IL there. This is a walk, a score walk. So the first navy blue bar you see, that's where we were in April 2022. And then you can see the blue bars is where our NPS score increased in that level of living, and by what percentage to get us to September 2022. And then the orange is where we lost ground and in which level of living to get us to April 2023. This again, it kind of pairs with the previous graph, and it helps us kind of drill down and say, okay, where can we focus and move the needle here on this stuff. Score by residency. So this looks all levels of living put together, how long you have been at the community. So less than a year, 1 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 10, 10 to 15, and then 15 plus. So you can kind of see, are there cohorts that maybe have better experiences or worse experiences? So you can actually see our newer residents have a little bit better experience. 1 to 3 drops down a little bit, and then 3 to 6 on out, it goes down, with a couple of exceptions here and there, but overall. So that's how we can really see that from how long you've been a resident here at Village on the Green. Any questions about those breakdowns? I share that with you just to show that the software we get is super powerful. We can slice and dice it many different ways. But as an organization, we try and drill down, okay, how are we doing an independent versus assisted living, because there are going to be issues that drive quality of life in those areas, and we need to have plans to address kind of all of those areas. We don't want to lump them in all together. So the questions altogether get boiled down into buckets, and I wanted to share a little bit about these buckets and give you an overall trend of where we're at, because this is really where kind of the meat and potatoes are for me and the leadership team. This is where we're going to drill down into. Kind of going into the NPS survey, I was thinking, man, dining's really gonna hammer me. That's probably where I'm gonna see, the worst scores and the most drop, just based on, the feedback that I've gotten and the challenges that I foresee. One of the things that really kind of surprised me a little bit was the drops that we saw on the scores regarding team members. This is team members as a whole. The first percentage you see, those are two percentages added together. That is the number of people who strongly agree or agree, okay? So obviously the higher that percentage is, the better. The lower, the worse, because that means there's a population of disagree or strongly disagree in there as well, okay? So if you look in that right-hand column, you see the negatives. That's the percentage we have dropped in all of those. And you can see in team members all across the board, there's a drop. Now, there are some higher scores, a 93%, and you saw a drop of 4. You know, is it earth-shattering? No. But I think an overall trend you could certainly point to and say there's an issue with the customer service aspect there for all of our team members across the board. So that's where we're going to try and get into, and similar to what we did with team members and kind of having some listening sessions, we want to understand from residents what are some of the meaningful things that you would like to see that would help us improve those scores, help improve your experience. So we need to get a little bit more insight into that, but these numbers are going to help to kind of narrow our focus on that area. Culinary. Still, overall, like the percentages, there are some low percentages there. The meals usually arrive on time in a timely manner. When you see that asterisk, it's a new question. So there isn't another reference point in the previous survey, so that's why you'll see it's at a 44%, but it increased by 44. It's the first time it was on there, so I don't view that as a negative trend. It's just a straight up negative number because only 44% of you strongly agree or agree that your meals come out on time. So that's kind of some of the nuances we need to kind of ferret out of this data. But you can see there are some improvements there. I mean, obviously our numbers were so low, we almost had only one way to go in that area. But still, we need to kind of, I didn't necessarily lose ground in this area overall. Maintenance requests was another area, another item that popped up as an issue for the residents. You can see like, mid to low 60s there in terms of strongly agree and agree in terms of their answer to this question. And you can see that we've dropped numbers there as well. So overall themes right out of the gate: team member, customer service, interaction with the residents. Culinary, definitely work to do, but not necessarily like one single area sticking out on that. It's just overall culinary program. And then maintenance requests, the process by which you put in a work order, you get feedback, it gets completed or it doesn't get completed, but you're kept in the loop. So those are some of the areas that we're gonna have to dive into when we start looking at our action plans. They added some additional questions. This really is geared more towards the quality of life, the healthcare component of that. You can see a mixed bag in terms of results, but some drops there. For me, I don't necessarily want to hang my hat on a single person, but I think when I look at what we're bringing to the table with Wendy as the Director of Health and Wellness, filling that care navigator role, filling a lot of the knowledge gaps from our residents, team members, and family perspective, I already kind of have some positive vibes as to how we can move move the needle there. So when folks are asked, I'm confident in my community's ability to meet my evolving healthcare needs. I think we have all the resources. We've got the full continuum of care. We've added assisted living, we've added memory care, but now it's making sure folks understand how do you access that care and how do you transition through the different levels in a seamless manner, in a manner that's not so jarring and whatnot. So definitely work to be done there, but I have some positive feelings as to some of the resources we already have in that area to address that. So kind of next actions, we're gonna start, we've been slicing and dicing. We need to come up with some concrete steps to take. We need to get some feedback from you as to what that looks like. I have a pretty tight timeline, so most likely I'll be utilizing resident council and the various committees like plan and culinary to run those kind of discussion groups, so to speak. Because really I have to get that done by the end of this month and implemented so that I can start hopefully moving the needle as we march towards our next survey. So I think in the past when I've looked at some of the action plans, very broad, very big idea, it can't be that. Those are things that take 2, 3, 4 months to implement, and then boom, you're right on top of your next survey, you haven't done anything. So we really need to look at small actionable steps So it may be, not super satisfying to see exactly what they are, but I think if we keep at it, again, it's kind of like this philosophy, it's continuous quality improvement. It's not just one thing and you're done. We got to continuously keep at it. If we can do that successfully, we will see positive results over time. So we'll implement those and then we'll check in and I'll report back and say, hey, here's what we're working on, here's what the feedback we're getting, it is working, it's not working, we're gonna tweak it on the fly. So that's kind of our philosophy with the results and our action plans from there. Any questions about the NPS survey before I move away from that? Okay. So next, Happy or Not, this is kind of like our monthly check-in. We're utilizing that system. What was kind of nice to see, we've seen some wild seesaws in our Happy or Not score from month to month. But what we saw from February into March into April is developing a little bit more consistency. Not that there aren't issues, there certainly are issues, but you're seeing some of those wild performance swings get eliminated, which I think is good. Okay, we're starting to narrow our focus a little bit and now maybe build some consistency into the program. But we always, we utilize this, I utilize this at least weekly, and there are times where if I get feedback, if I get a couple of calls or emails that said last night's dinner was terrible, I hop into Happy or Not, and then I can put forth those questions to the culinary team and say, hey, there's a lot of issues with the tough lamb. What are we doing about that? Is that a one-off? Was it a substitution? Do we need to change the quality of the meat? We can facilitate those conversations so the next time we have that item come around, we should not be making the same mistake. We're getting the same feedback from the residents. So we really do utilize the Happy or Not system. This is navy blue dots, that is April, and then the gray dots, that is March. So you can kind of see March, we had some wild peaks there, a little bit more consistency, but you can see some dips here and there. So that's kind of where we drill in and like to see how we're doing overall. Just a quick note, I know maybe in the past there have been issues with the liquor license here at Village on the Green, or not getting supply because invoices weren't paid timely. So the organization has implemented a system called FinTech. What FinTech does is it's a financial intermediary between the wholesalers and the buyers. And so with liquor purchases, without FinTech, you have to pay within like 3 days, calendar days, no matter what. And if you don't, they're cutting you off. But the problem is when they cut you off, they cut everybody associated with that liquor license off. So all of Florida is under one liquor license. So if my sister community down in South Florida forgets to pay a bill, we don't get our delivery. So now that it's going to be electronic, those wholesalers can automatically go in and withdraw their payments from our bank account. So we place the order, it gets delivered, we approve it, they get their money, we move on. So we don't have this issue of who paid their bill, who didn't pay their bill, and whatnot. So that system went live as of 5/1. The nice part is it will, over time, allow us access to some other wholesalers who carry different types of liquors, wines, beers, or whatnot, that wouldn't necessarily do business with us before because we didn't use the electronic system. There are some folks who are like, I'm not dealing with the paper check because they know exactly what happened. So I think just a small thing for you to know that hopefully improves that bar experience so you don't have those service disruptions on that side. Shifting gears to occupancy, we are making strides, right? Last year, we had a record 34 move-ins, and we had a very strong Q1. We had 11 move-ins in Q1. But the organization saw it developing last year and has seen a trend carry into this year, which is that attrition, the number of residents leaving the communities, has increased and is continuing to increase and is outstripping what we expected from a budgetary perspective on an enterprise-wide level. So while we have a lot of great work that we're doing with the sales teams in terms of looking at different demographics, trying to get more leads, creating more personalized experiences and all that, from the operations perspective in the home office, we need to basically shut the back door. We have too many folks moving through the community too quickly. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but we also need to get our arms around all of those reasons. So the organization has implemented kind of an attrition management program that they've kind of coined, because it's home office, we gotta come up with something snazzy, 3 terms: approve right, serve right, transition right. Approve right, so when residents are coming in, they're not only financially qualified, but they qualify from a health perspective. And that's taking a look at our actuarial reports to see when a resident comes to us, the expectation that is that they live in independent living 6 to 8 years with us, right? That's what we need in order for this model to work, this life care model to work. When folks come in and move through the transition through the care levels faster, it strains us financially as a whole. We've had too much of that. When we look at the last year of attrition, a lot of folks who've been here 3 months, 6 months, a year, moving permanently through. And attrition could be move out because of dissatisfaction with customer service, it could be death, but it's also who's moving to assisted living, who's moving to the higher levels of care. So we're making some changes to our policies, which we're still waiting for, right, Wendy? Yes, we're still waiting for the official word, but essentially when independent living residents were being assessed, or prospects were being assessed, we were asking ourselves, could they live independently for 3 years? That's a problem when financially you need them to make it to 6 to 8. So that's changed now. When Wendy does our assessments, she's looking to see, can residents live independently for 6 years reasonably? Also, before we were allowing residents to move in and they could be dependent on private duty caregivers, they can no longer be dependent on private duty caregivers. They could have someone who comes and cleans their house or is their companion. That's not a problem. But the question is, if you were to remove that person from the equation, could that resident or could those residents live independently? If the answer is no, then independent living is not an appropriate environment for them.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Is that a requirement for new people coming in? So, if a new person comes in, and in a month they need 24-hour care, and they can pay for it?
Once you're in, right?
Okay.
So, if you come in and you have you're a healthy 74-year-old, no problems at all, and all of a sudden you have a stroke and require care, you absolutely, you're in, you've got the life care contract. The question, essentially what this is boiling down to is, are we being judicious with whom we're offering the life care contract to? Because once we offer it, we're financially obligated for the long term to meet that. So we need to be more selective, which I know puts a lot of pressure on our sales team because, we're championing big numbers, right? But we're also saying we need to be more selective. So it's a lot of pressure going on right now. But at the same time, you look at those 34 sales we had last year, we had 30 move outs. It's crazy. We netted 4 last year. We opened 20 new villas. How we only netted 4 in our occupancy is like mind-boggling, right? So that's the kind of the script we've got to be able to turn here, because Jesse's real big on that long-term commitment financially, and so this is the painful part for our teams, but we kind of have to get there. The other big change policy-wise is we used to offer exemptions to life care. Okay, we've got some concerns. We won't offer you life care for the first 2 to 5 years, but then after that period, you can have life care. Now it's you either get life care or you don't. So if we've got concerns, we're not gonna offer life care at all, because from an implementation perspective, nobody used a 5-year waiver, everybody was using the minimum 2-year waiver. And then when you look at those folks who got the 2-year waiver, they were in the health center within a year. So clearly we saw something that was concerning, we should have gone with our gut and not offered a life care contract in that aspect. So the official policy, Wendy is waiting on bated breath for, but we have implemented this already. And we've lost a couple leads. We've had some tough conversations, we've had some experiences, I know some were referrals. We're just kind of working through those on a case-by-case basis, but we understand ultimately, there isn't a specific age at which we rule anybody out, there isn't a specific diagnosis that rules anybody out. We look at it in totality, but just like the financial piece, which we have been doing a good job, I know some might ask, are we doing a financial assessment well? Yes, Village on the Green has done a good job. making sure financially everybody's qualified. But historically, we haven't done a great job on that healthcare component. Ironically, Village on the Green hasn't been punished too bad by attrition. We're actually ahead of where we expected we would be, and in a positive sense, we haven't had as much attrition. But that's just luck. We're seeing some of our sister communities have 30 move-ins and 50 move-outs, and they're just getting punished. So again, we just need to, the sooner we implement this, hopefully we get through that pain and ultimately have a much better long-term result here. I won't, I think I forgot to update this for April. Yes, because this is March's number, so that's a late night whoopsie on my part. I'll update that for April for you. But I think we had one move in April. Slower month, but we kind of expect a little bit of that after a really strong first quarter there. But that is also kind of a trend we're going to try and break ourselves out of, because we don't want to have these boom and bust cycles. We really need consistent residents entering every single month, and I know Megan's going to help us quite a bit with that. Someone asked about resident days. I won't spend too much time on this, but we talk a lot about percentages and move-ins and move-outs, but we have a budgeted number of days we expect residents to be in assisted living or be in independent living. And that ultimately kind of drives a lot of our budget. And then some of the new tools that Workday is starting to layer in. Workday is looking at, okay, we can't look at it on a monthly basis, we have to look at our costs on a daily basis. We have to look at revenue on a daily basis as well. So this is starting to look at, okay, how much revenue do we anticipate having every single day, and what are our expenses every single day, and are we upside down or not? So our department directors haven't gotten this level yet. It's really right now at the executive director level. But what Workday is starting to allow me to do is look at what is our maintenance cost for today. And if it's through the roof, why is that? What do we need to adjust faster? So I'm not looking at it. It used to be I'd look at it on a monthly basis, and then we got down to, okay, I'll look at it on a 2-week pay period basis. Now I'm getting down to the point where I can view it on a daily basis, which is very helpful in that you can see, okay, like today, our culinary costs are going to be higher because of the luau. I know that. But I probably need a couple of days this week where we're right at budget, or maybe even a little bit below, to help absorb that overage we needed to do for this. Before, when I was only getting that on a 2-week pay period basis, that's not fast enough for me to make some intelligent decisions there to be able to pivot and manage that. So when I start sharing some of those reports with you, probably more with that resident council at the plant and culinary committee level, you may ask, well, where are you getting these revenue numbers from? We're starting to look at it on a daily basis as to what kind of revenue are we getting in memory care today, IL today, and going from there. So overall financial, I'm just going to jump right in here to operating expenses for March. Last meeting I gave you a little bit of a tidbit that we were looking pretty good. From a revenue perspective, we had $2,298,000 in revenue on a budget of $2,215,000. So that was $83,000 ahead of where we expected our budgetary revenues to be, which is very helpful. Below that, you can see the drivers of that. The independent living was a big driver of that because of those 9 move-ins that we had. We get a 5% of that entry fee, and that gooses our revenue numbers there. And then you can see memory care, skilled nursing, and then home health really far exceeding what we expected our budgetary revenue numbers to be there. So overall, very happy with how revenue is trending for the community overall. From an expense perspective, we were about $12,000 under budget in terms of expenses, which is I think a second month where we've been able to string that together. And then when revenues are exceeding your expenses, we had a profitable month. We were to the good by $170,000. So overall, we have kind of crawled our way out of the hole we dug ourselves in January. We stopped the bleeding in February, and in March we were able to kind of turn the corner there. So pretty big performance turnaround, and really what I would point to is it's that expense management, it's the labor management, and then making sure our revenue numbers are where they're supposed to be. So April figures are just starting to trickle out. It looks like we'll have another positive month in April. It'll be a little tighter because we don't have all those entry fee, 5% processing fees hitting. So it's gonna be a little tighter, but we're looking like we're gonna be in the black for April as well. So it's a great trend. I know it's early, but because we kick off our budget process in about 2 weeks, coming to the table in a positive position helps to inform what our rate increases could be, what our pay increases could be, and we do that from a position of strength versus when we're losing a bunch of money. Their home office is looking to see what they can, cut and scrimp and save. But when we come to it with a little money at the table, we have a little bit more bargaining power. So happy with the team's performance there. So overall, when you look at the big four, our team member engagement's at 77, goal is 78. We have one more survey later this year. Net promoter score 33. The goal was 30, but in my mind, we were at a 41 last time. Maybe a little questionable for 41, but it's still not where we want it to be. That best in class is 51, but I think we've got a good opportunity to get there in terms of improving that. IL occupancy off a little bit, but we're okay on the attrition side. Not as many folks have left as we anticipated, so from that perspective, we're doing pretty well. And then net operating margin, we're at a 1.8% right now on a goal of 3.3. I think if we continue the trend that we've had, we should be able to meet budget there from that perspective. So overall, I think we've got some pretty good news in terms of operations and which way we're trending. This is the LifeSpace Enterprise Scorecard. Really, this is probably something you may want to look at offline because it is a bit of an eye chart. But you can see, those red numbers not where we want it to be. Green, we're to meeting our budgetary goal, and blue, not only are we at the budgetary goal, but we're exceeding that. We're best in class. So still some red on there, but you can see overall, the operating expenses. The system as a whole is doing a good job with its new tools on hand. Even the revenue, a little bit off from budget, so it's red, but it's still pretty strong. So I think overall, I know they had a board meeting last 2 weeks ago, I think, in April. The board was pretty pleased with the direction that the organization's heading right now. But I think Q2 is going to be interesting to see where things end up, but definitely feeling good about Village on the Green and where we're headed. Any questions about those scorecards, those metrics and all that before I dive into the team member or more community updates? Right.
On attrition, how do we compare with our competition in Florida? At 30, you said we had a net gain of 4 on 30 turnover.
Yeah.
How does that compare to our competition?
Sure. So the question was, how does our attrition compare to the other Florida communities? There's a couple that are beating us that are doing a better job on the attrition management. Harbor's Edge has a much stronger occupancy, so they see a lot lower turnover there. But when you look at like the Abbey Del Rey South, we're doing better than they are doing, but they're really struggling in terms of occupancy right now. So I think we're on the upswing, but it is kind of a precarious moment for us in that if we don't continue with those sales and we allow attrition to outstrip that, that puts a hurt on us. So right now our higher levels of living really help us on the revenue side of things. But I will say, like, April was a softer month for the Oaks, for the health center, the skilled nursing side. Census was in the 40 to 45 range. Our budget's 45. And if you look at the previous months, we were in the 45 to 48. We were pretty much full. So still, not a horrible census, but it was just enough softness. When you talk about we're 10,000 to good or 10,000 to the bad, one health center admission is $10,000 right there. So we're still right on the line. We've got a bit of a cushion, but it could go either way. So certainly we're not out of the woods, but we're not totally lost in it either.
Right.
Was there another question? No? Okay. So team member updates. Megan, come on up here. Megan Williams, our new Director of Sales, joined us on May 1st. Super excited to have her. I was worried she was not going to come back after the first week because It was, we had quite a few folks here helping to orient her. We had some long days, didn't we? We did have some long days. There was like a 12, 13, 14-hour day there a couple times. But super excited to have Megan here. I would just ask Megan to introduce herself and just tell a little bit about herself.
Thank you. I've met some of you at various meetings, so hello again. Megan Williams, as Joey said in here, he and I worked together at Westminster for 2 years. And I was happy as a clam there. And I got a text one night from him, and he said, "Can you meet for coffee?" I'm like, sure, always go talk to somebody. So Joey came with the vice president of sales and marketing from the company, and you know, it just turned out to be one of those things, God works in mysterious ways, and 30 days later, I'm here. So I'm happy to be here, I'm excited. I come to you with 30 years of experience of doing just this. Sales and marketing and retirement housing industry has been my career. I've done a variety of things. I had my own company for about 12 years, which was just me filling in for organizations like this that had either new expansions or needed some help with occupancy. So I was on boots on the ground, and as my kids figured out, my job was to work myself out of a job. So I enjoy the challenges of which I have uncovered here with Joey in just a short time. So that'll be exciting. On the personal side, I have 3 kids. My oldest one lives in Fort Myers, who was married last year. My daughter's getting married in October in Cincinnati. Excuse me, and my youngest is going to school in Savannah at SCAD. Interesting, he's there to design tennis shoes. So I don't know if any of your grandchildren or sons are into that, but it's a big industry. I'm originally from the Washington, D.C. area, moved here by way of Cleveland 2 years ago. My friends thought I was nuts. I wanted a palm tree and sunshine. Interviewed with Joey at Westminster, and our executive director, and moved 30 days later. So I love it here. I'm excited to be here. It's been a fun journey just the first couple of weeks. We have some big challenges. We currently have 55 available apartments. Joey tells me when he started he had 68. So we're on the right track. The resident referrals you all have brought us have been so appreciative, and we need more. So one of the things I'm going to be doing, we're going to have a rollout of some opportunities for the resident referrals. And I think what you all have here is something that I haven't seen in other communities, which is a culture of resident referrals. This is not a campaign, it's not short term. We appreciate sharing all the goodwill. When we have residents or prospects move and come to visit the community, it's you that sell it. It's our intangibles here on this campus that we can't put on a website or direct mail piece, so we really appreciate that. One of the other things I'm going to do in kind of my study is I'm going to gather some of the residents that have moved in over the last year for a couple meetings to learn about their journeys. As trying to think, I was supposed to say Robbie. Joey says, you know, we need to do a lot to bring more people onto the campus. We need some opportunities where I'm talking with marketing to see what we can do to generate some more events that are engaging. Marketing will be doing smaller events, offering a couple days rather than these large parties that we've been having. We want to be able to control the environment, control what the conversations are, and have a good follow-up process so we can keep moving through. So as Joey said, we don't want to go up and down, we want to be steady across. So I look forward to working with you all. Come by anytime. I'm going to start, I think, having some lunches in the dining room so I can meet some new residents. I know how to do this job, but I don't know you, and I need to understand more about the campus. So looking forward to learning from you all. Any questions?
Where is your office going to be?
Actually, right down the hallway here, so almost across from the dining room. Is that right?
Yeah, just right up.
Literally across from where we are.
Okay,
So when you walk in, it'll be to the left.
But before that's finished, where?
Oh, we're over in a house, and I don't know where it is.
Salesville.
It's next to the Miskells. So I know that because I worked with them at
You're gonna be
Westminster.
over there.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? It's the Taj Mahal. And where we're going to move to? It's very nice. All right, thank you.
Megan neglected to mention is she's almost a cat lady. She has 2. I told her if she gets a 3rd, she is a cat lady officially.
I love those things.
I would also say, Megan and I are very much aligned on, some of the trajectory of sales I told you about is like, we gotta stop selling real estate. We have to talk about the life care contract, and we have to talk about the lifestyle that we offer. And honestly, a lot of what I spout, I learned from Megan. So, in terms of our alignment on that is, there's no deviation there. And already she's having an impact with our sales team. Basically, we're kind of starting from ground zero, right? Forget what you know. Here's how, here's what we offer. Here's what differentiates us from other people in the market. Here's why we are of value. So, super excited for that. I know it's a lot for the team to take on, but we have to do it. The challenge is very much right on top of us, and I think we're positioned for success, but we have to seize it. And I think Megan's really going to help us to get there. So I'm super excited to have her on board. I'll also say, you might say, okay, this is sales. What does this have to do with me in terms of being a resident? Obviously, yes, there's a financial component, but what I will say is Megan does bring to the table kind of a drive that requires other department directors to match in terms of what are the expectations for housekeeping, what are the expectations for unit refurbs, what are the expectations for lifestyles. She's always professional and kind, but she will not mince words in saying if something's off and it needs to be fixed. But that's kind of my expectation of her, is to bring that expertise and that eye, so that we are continuously getting better. Because again, if you're having a great experience, that helps the referrals, and that helps Megan with the sales process. So I'm looking forward to really having her on the team. A couple of other additions. Umair Kasim is our new regional on the sales team. He actually started the same day Megan did, so that's why they did their orientation here together. Umair, his responsibility is essentially turnaround sales. So the bottom 4 lowest occupied communities, that's who he's assigned to. It's his expertise to do basically turnaround sales. So he's going to be focusing on us, the 2 Abbey communities, and the new acquisition outside of Chicago, Greenfields of Geneva. That's his territory. So he has worked with my regional, Zach Jacobson, before, and also our vice president of sales before, so there's a lot of synergy there. Came in, just already great observations, and we're looking forward to picking his brain and seeing what we can do better from a sales perspective. Roger has returned to the driver role. We had a time there where we elevated both Tommy and Roger to a lead driver role, and I think ultimately what we've decided is Roger's best suited for the driver role, and that Tommy's going to handle the lead portion himself with support from Rhonda. So we've gone ahead and implemented that already. We have a new director of plant operations and engineering, Ed Gossett. He started a couple weeks ago. Ed comes to us out of Utah, but his role is filling Chris Soden, who I think some of you may have known was here during some of the hurricanes and whatnot. But Ed is getting up to speed. He'll be here for our ribbon cutting in the beginning of June to kind of put us through a hurricane prep, evaluation, and also get to know the community. In terms of some changes, Chris McCutcheon, Director of Culinary Services, is no longer with Village on the Green. That change was implemented on Monday. So right now we have a smorgasbord of Unidyne reps here, Masoom, Serge, and a couple other folks. But on Monday, Ken Gragger is going to be here to be our interim director of culinary services. Technically, Ken works for Compass, who's the parent group of Unidyne, but this is his specialty. He comes in and he's a bit of a fixer and an interim guy. He's actually just wrapping up this week at Abbey Del Rey, where they went through a similar transition, and he's just finishing onboarding their new director of culinary services. So he'll be headed up here on Monday to be doing that as well. Certainly wish Chris all the best. He's a great guy. But I'll be honest, we're clear as to what's expected of the culinary program, and just getting back to baseline really isn't sufficient. We need to accelerate that program. It needs to become that pillar of strength for our community. So we've got high expectations and got big shoes to fill, but No, I'm not bringing someone from Westminster. But we are looking, and we've got some leads and some potentially very strong candidates that we're looking forward to getting in here for the interview process. Just as a side note, I know this is definitely an eye chart, but I want you to know this is an updated org chart that's on Touchtown. So you can go onto Touchtown under admin and you can blow it up on your device or you can print it out. It does print best on 11:17, which I know most printers can't handle. But this was kind of, when I got here, our org chart was kind of pitiful and I wasn't really sure who reported to who or who did what. So we've gone through and kind of clarified all the titles, because some titles changed with Workday back in January. And then we've gone ahead and plugged in people's names so you can kind of see what that is. But just wanted you to know it exists, it's out there on Touchdown. Statements. So I think we were all a little surprised to find some changes to our statements here in April. And so essentially what you're going to see now is a market rate on your statement, your monthly statement. And then you're going to see a discount, which brings you down to your contracted rate. Why did we do this? So effective April 1st, we introduced what we call a bifurcated rate system. So we now have multiple rates for an accommodation. The April 1st rate saw a rate increase, and that sets the new market rate. In order for our billing system not to have a complete connection fit and for Javier to not lose his mind trying to manage individual rates, we plug in the market rate as it's the highest rate, and then we can calculate in the discount to bring you to your monthly service fee. This is not a rate increase. However, what it does set the stage for is different types of rate increases. So you could have one rate increase for existing residents and another rate increase for new residents. This is a system that I'm more accustomed to with coming from Westminster, where our annual increase might be X percentage, say 5%, and then the new resident rate increase may be 10%. So it's not that everybody's getting the same, let's say 7.5%. So we did need to do some jockeying there to make sure that our billing system can handle all of this. And from what I understand, this was the most elegant way of doing that. I apologize you didn't get a heads up on that. I think sometimes we're eager to make changes and don't necessarily understand fully how other folks might get impacted by those changes. And that was something I certainly shared with the home office of, hey, understand you had to do what you had to do, but kind of puts me in a pickle here, sending out invoices, and now Javier spent weeks on weeks answering questions, so, and me trying to figure it out too. So that is why we're doing that change. Here's essentially what it looks like on your statement. So you're gonna have your payment from your previous month, the apartment rate, that charge is the market rate, and then you'll see a contract discount number figure, and that net fee is your existing monthly service fee. So if you have any issues with that, definitely contact Javier. He's become very adept at explaining that, but that is kind of essentially how we got to where we are right now with that system. Okay.
How do you
Yes.
show the contract discount? That percentage is what?
It can vary. It can vary based on the unit, and over time, there's gonna be quite a few, but essentially we plug in what the end rate is, and the system's calculating the discount to get us from the market to the contractual rate. So what we're trying to do is we don't wanna end up with a bunch of records that are all independent market rates. We want to maintain the ability to apply a percentage increase to a group of residents, and we're creating essentially multiple groups now. So the way it shows up to you is as a dollar figure. It doesn't show up as a percentage on your statement, but that dollar figure is being driven by a percentage that we're inputting. So let's say rate increase is 5%. It'll translate into the dollar figure on your statement. And then if we do 10% for the market, it's gonna be even larger of a dollar figure, because the market rate's gone up and also your monthly service fee has gone up. So the system's taking into that account and coming up with the dollar figure. So you won't see a percentage on your statement. Is that what you were asking?
Yes, that's
Okay.
part of it.
Okay.
I think that's gonna be very confusing.
Okay. I don't disagree.
Joey?
Yes.
What would, just taking it the other way, if the much advertised depression hits, recession hits, and the rates go the other way, we get competitive for the rates, would there be, how would that be handled? I just don't understand, to be frank with you, I just quite don't understand why we need to show that, why not just bill what we need to pay? Because right as soon as you put in market rates can go up, housing can go down over certain periods of time, and perhaps the market rate would go down over, at a period of a recession or even worse. I don't understand, I guess what I really don't understand is why show this, why not just bill us what we owe?
So, in order to keep all the records somewhat straight and not have each unique record be its own manual price entered, we're essentially we're utilizing the billing system's functionality to put in a rate and then put in a percentage discount to get another rate. If we don't show that, then we end up with, okay, so, Mrs. Smith moved in and I manually go in and put her rate in. So then when it comes time to rate increases, Javier has to go into every single one and do that. I believe Javier will do that, but as you know, when you get turnover and changes or glitches or, fat fingering something, you start getting into situations where you lose that rate assuredness that you've got you know what you're doing there. I think rates going down, has anybody ever seen a rate go down?
See housing rates go down.
Yes, you see the housing market, certainly, but I will say, I don't think I've ever seen a rate go down. In fact, I don't even know if I've ever seen a 0% rate increase. Even during 2008, I've seen, 0.75, 1.25% rate increases, even during those times. But even with this, if the market rate is changing and it's a percentage that we can then go in and at least tweak that versus then having to go individually and calculate everybody's monthly service fee. Essentially, if the market rate aligns with the existing contracted rate, we took a beating, but at least we could program that in versus after having to go in and manually
Is
do
this
that.
ultimately a way to show, to make an increase in our prices?
No, but what it will do is it'll allow us to increase new resident prices without impacting existing resident prices. Right? So we didn't have a mechanism before to charge someone more than what you were getting. What this allows us to do now is to charge new residents more, which is what we're doing as of April 1st, without doing a rate increase for the existing residents. We didn't have a way, you were the highest rate. We've now introduced another one, so it's okay, how do we manage that financially in our billing system? And it's by introducing this discount to do that.
Joey, it's not actually a discount.
I get that honestly, the semantics of a discount versus a contracted rate, had they asked me, yes, I'd give them my feedback on that, but that's not, I didn't get to decide what we call it, right? But I understand what they're trying to achieve in that. So I can always pass that along and say, hey, Abby, this isn't a discount. But ultimately, it's the mechanism by which we're getting to where we need to be from a rate perspective.
Which one of those numbers is our rate increase for next year going to be calculated against?
So your rate increase is going to be, so essentially what will happen is you'll get a letter that says, do they do usually a general percentage here, or do they give you individual letters? I'm not sure how life space does it. You get a percentage. So you get a percentage based off of your current rate. So the letter will tell you if your rate is $1,000 and you've got a 10% rate increase, and here's your new monthly service fee.
But that contract adjustment number isn't going to be included?
No, because that contract adjustment, you'll ultimately see that because new residents, we're gonna post what our price is. And so that percentage is gonna be, that could be more, if you get a 5% and they get a 10%, you know, that could be a bigger gulf in terms of that difference there. So over time, you're gonna see that contract discount probably grow as your rates go up at one rate and the new rates go up at another. Yes?
Can you speak to the $75 sustaining fee that some of us pay and some of us do not pay, and many of us don't understand what it goes for?
I'll be honest, I'm not sure what that is. I'd have to find out.
Nobody knows.
$75 sustaining fee?
Every one of us pays, well, many of us.
Many of you pay, but not all of you. And it's called the sustaining fee?
Yes.
I think it was contracted before 2016.
Some of us have it, some of us don't.
And I'm sorry, it was 75?
We'd like it to go away.
Well, I've had it for 13 years.
Well, I'm sure everybody would like it to go away.
Well, those of us that have it, those that don't have it are not so nice.
You're okay with that? Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I'm not entirely sure what that is. Yeah. Okay.
It's a certain amount that's applied in a certain way.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to do some research on that. That's news to me. All right, so moving along here, clubhouse renovation. Phase one, hopefully this week we're getting our final building inspection. The last few items there being fixed today. I know HVAC, there are some tuning issues there. I think intentionally they turned the AC off to my office, but they fixed that thankfully. So we should be ready for the building inspection on that. We should be opening that up really as soon as that hallway is ready. They're putting up the backing on the hall by the culinary area right now, but there's still like a lot of stuff on the floor. They were just putting the ceiling in. So once that hallway is opened up, I'll feel comfortable opening it up so that you can safely walk over there. So we're getting close. It might be kind of a, hey, it's open tomorrow kind of thing, but we're getting there. Phase two, furniture is going to be the week of May 29th, right after Memorial Day there. That whole week, there are crews descending on us to install all the furniture and artwork and all of that. We are having to do basically the punch walk in the middle of it, so there's still probably going to be a flurry of activity going on, but we're feeling good about making our June 7th ribbon cutting. I think probably that Monday and Tuesday, we're going to be doing some cleaning and last minute touch-ups, but I think we are going to make it. We did push the office moves. So sales, my goal was to try to get them in before the party. That seems like too much to try and do. So their offices are going to be set up with their furniture and artwork and all of that, but they won't physically move until the Monday after the party. And that's when a lot of these copiers, Seminole's going to be out here to move that stuff, and Rick Britt from IT will be here to move computers. So that following Monday, we're probably going to close those sales offices so they can bring all their stuff into the new area. And so the week of the 12th, they should be getting up to speed and in there.
So that includes the fitness center as well?
The fitness center may be open sooner. The fitness center, that's just dependent on the hallway there, and then also some of the fitness equipment. It's all been moved, but there's some tuning that the manufacturer has to come back and do to make sure that it's all within spec and warranty and everything.
And can he come before the final inspection, or?
Yeah, he can come back, but yeah, we can have all that stuff ready to go. The final inspection is really just contingent on some of the HVAC issues that they were having. They need to make sure that when they test, the fire systems, dampers close and all of that. And the damper reopens, especially in my office, so I get AC. They just have to do a couple fine tuning things there, but we're not anticipating any issues passing the.
And that's a Seminole County inspection.
Seminole County inspection, yep. And they've been pretty good. They've come
Have they?
almost the next day for
Good.
for surveys, so they've been very helpful. We also invited them to the party. So projects, just high level, we did get our 2023 capital budget. We shared that with the plant committee. Tony and I are going through the process of kind of reassessing all of those items. Those were budgeted 18 months ago, and the prices have definitely changed. So see what the actual prices are, what the new priority is, because things have shifted over time and new things have popped up. So we've got some horse trading to do with the capital budget. Ultimately, our spend is driven by how many entry fees we're bringing in, so we need to make sure we're continuing that positive trend to make sure those capital dollars keep flowing, but so far we feel like we're in a pretty good spot. There are some pretty big projects out there that should break ground ideally this year, but most likely completion in 2024. Window replacement being one of those big items. Kitchen dishwasher, it's up, it's running. There are a couple of little things that they have to finish. They need a welder to come out and finish welding a couple of the stainless steel tables together, but nothing that is preventing the culinary team from utilizing the dishwasher and kind of getting back to the normal swing of things there. We're doing a lot of unit refurbishment. I'm sure many of you have heard that, felt that in your units. I do appreciate your graciousness with that. We are trying to get to the point where all of our units are rent ready, so I can turn all of that over to sales, so we're not sitting there doing custom jobs, or we've got a unit that someone's interested in but it's not ready for 6 months. We're trying to get out of that funk. So we're really pushing hard. We're doing 10 at a time to get all of those up to speed. And so really by the end of this calendar year, we should have all of our existing inventory ready on that front.
How many do we have ready at this point? Do we know?
We have about 26, 27 that are ready, and I think we're gonna have another 10 coming back to us throughout May and in the beginning of June. We do them in batches of 10, the apartments, so we can get some pricing there, so we demo them all together, rough plumb them, electrical, all of that, and it makes the inspectors happy too. They just come and spend the whole day and go around and do that, so reduces some cost and moves things along there. So we budget for them independently, but we group them all together and get a discount. Yes, ma'am.
I wish I had mentioned this when Megan was here, because at the Friday coffee, we learned that right away, she had identified the fact that our marketing team had not seen the competition.
Yep.
We as residents saw the competition and knew why this was better.
Yep. No, I mean, I was very transparent with Megan with the task at hand, but even then, I think she's found some stuff that's a little surprising. But I said, look, there's no sense in wondering the why on that. We just have to fix it. So we've gotten the whole team over to the Mayflower, and we're going to get them over to Legacy Point. And yeah, it's the basics. If someone's coming in and saying, I'm looking at Legacy Point, our sales counselor has to be able to say, well, hey, did you consider this? Did you consider that? And what Megan's really big on is encouraging you to go see the competition. She's that confident in the product and her ability to position the product that she said, go look at Westminster, go look at Mayflower. And then you're going to come right back because of X, Y, Z. I know there's a couple folks who've come up to her and said, hey, I remember you, and because of your talk about the contract, I went with Village on the Green instead of Westminster. And that's fine. She said, look, I've educated you and you made the best decision possible for you. That's a win-win, right? You're not going to end up with someone who's dissatisfied in that sense. But that also builds the trust, because I bet you that resident's going to say, whatever Megan tells you is going to be pretty spot on, so you can make a good decision off of that. So definitely a little bit more foundational work we have to do, but that's okay. We'll get it done. And we'll do it quickly. It's not like we still have sales goals. We still got to meet them. We can't dilly-dally about it. So. Villa 569 drainage work underway. That was a long-standing issue out there, so we've got that underway. The entryway update, it's still lingering out there. I haven't gotten that plan yet. They've asked me yet again for another meeting time to show me, and I'm like, okay, I'll give you the time. Let's see if you make it. So no update on that front, but the intent is still the same. I get it, you get time to comment. We'll get that comment back to them. They answer what your feedback is, and then go from there. So, even if there might be in a rush, we're not going to rush through the process on our end to give you that opportunity. Can Do, I talked a little bit about it last time. This is a program that LifeSpace is rolling out. It's a service. It's a billable. It's a monthly fee. I think it's $14.99. That Can Do charges for you to get unlimited tech support from a team of trained tech folks who are used to working with seniors. Jeff is gonna be here on Wednesday, May 24th, to do a little bit of spiel as to what it is and give you a sample of what that product looks like. And then he'll be here the rest of the day if you're interested in talking to him more or signing up potentially. Most likely there'll be like a 3-month free trial, so you can kick the tires on it and see if it's something that's worth the while. There is also going to be free stuff associated with this group classes that Candy Bless You is going to give to us, bless you, as a part of this process. So all residents will benefit, not just the ones who sign up from it. But just wanted you to be aware that we're kind of bringing some more resources to be able to answer your tech questions, and mark your calendars for the 24th. Jeff? Last week in the door hanger, PS Salon distributed a price increase that's going to be effective June 1st. I have gone ahead and posted it on Touchtown. I left the existing pricing sheet and I put the new one effective 6/1 so you can kind of see back and forth. But I'm not entirely sure how that whole process works, other than I got the letter saying your rates are going up. So just wanted to make sure you had that, and it is on Touchtown under their Salon app if you want to see that information. So COVID-19 continues to decline but not go away. We just had a positive case over the Oaks yesterday, so you'll be getting a letter on that. So unfortunately still present in our community, obviously not as dangerous as it was in the beginning days. But there is a booster that the FDA has authorized for folks 65 and older, immunocompromised. This really is, I think it's for what we're gonna pause. There's a booster shot. Ultimately, you need to talk to your physician to determine if it's right for you. We are going to do a booster clinic. This is going to be for the Pfizer and for the Moderna. And that's going to be Tuesday, May 16th. The clinic runs from 10:30 to 1. We've got 4 nurses signed up to give shots, so basically every 15 minutes we can kind of crank through 4 residents at a time. Sue is helping keep us organized. You can sign up with Sue for a time slot, and we will get your booster taken care of for you. Similar to how they've done it in the past. I don't know how they did it in the past, I'm just saying that. So if you have questions, I have questions too. But just wanted you to be aware, because that did come pretty quickly. The FDA issued that, I think, at the end of April, and then we got some further guidance kind of giving us the green light from a LifeSpace perspective to offer that. So if you have questions, I'd strongly encourage you to consult your physician about that, but it is going to be available to you for here.
And then there'll still be the fall one that Missy will.
There will be a fall one, definitely for flu. I think we're still waiting on some guidance on.
From Sarah.
Well, from Sarah, but also from the FDA a little bit, because like one of the thing the FDA did not address was they targeted 65 older immunocompromised. They did not make any change for those less than 65. So there isn't a recommendation for another booster for that population. They said they would address that sometime in the summer. I feel like they might be waiting to say, do we do one in the summer, or do you wait to roll one up together? I know there are pharmaceutical companies working on a combined flu shot and COVID shot. So it's, what products are going to be out there, what's going to get approved in time. So I think it's still up in the air as to what it looks like, but there will be a flu shot clinic in the fall for sure.
And this is totally different. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So Ann had brought up a couple things, and I've already forgotten. Oh, the emergency contact information. Thank you to everybody who responded with that. We've gotten our systems updated so that we've got the latest emergency contact information for you. Wendy and I are going to be switching gears here now that that's updated, turning our attention towards hurricane season, because that's coming up June 1st, and making sure that our information sheets are up to date with IL resident needs for oxygen or electric equipment or shelter or things like that. So stay tuned for update on that coming out. Was there anything else?
Coffee with Joey.
Coffee with Joey. The third Friday is now going to be in the afternoon at 3 p.m. That's, I know, I was doing it at 9. The first Friday will stay at 9 a.m., but I'm going to try one in the afternoon, see if it's a little bit of a different crowd, spread the love a little bit, and then we'll just kind of go from there. Let me know what works, and I'm happy to adjust as needed. Anything else?
It's
Ann?
100%.
Okay.
You did it.
One more thing, next quarterly meeting, is actually gonna be our, chapter 651 meeting, so that's that OIR requires us to do every quarter, but I meet with you every month. I just picked the third one to call it the quarterly, so I have to give you 30 days notice on that, so just wanted you to be aware. Questions?
Joey, back to the Salon Pass raise, which is up 25%. My basic question is, it says haircut, I think is now $25. And doesn't differentiate, if I may use the term, men and women, which they seem to have eliminated in their previous raise. And there definitely is a difference in the length of time, unit time to a man to a woman. I'm just querying, the gentleman who did the contracting in corporate, did they explore this? Did they have any input or discussion with it? Or did they just accept the price increase and pass it across?
I can't really answer how much scrutiny it got. When I kind of raised that up, I was pointed to that there's a difference between a haircut and a clipper cut. It's only $5 difference, but that I think was their answer to the differentiation between a quick trim around the ears versus later haircut with scissors. So they didn't necessarily address the gender portion of it. I think they were differentiating it by this is a clipper cut at one rate and a haircut, a scissor haircut at another rate. Okay, other questions? Okay. Done?
Done.
All right.
Great.
Thanks, Joey. Let me go over just a few things here. One, let's thank Stan for the Kentucky Derby effort that he made. That's something that in the future we're going to try to make more of. I met with the social committee the other day, and there are a lot of things coming up. There was a time when the Kentucky Derby was one where we all wore hats and it was an all-day event. And in the future, we're going to try to make more of that. And speaking of events coming up, I'm hurrying here. We have the Memorial Day service on the 29th. Please mark your calendars for that. That's very important to all of us. That'll be at 10:30 here in the Longwood Room. Getting back to the social committee, the mingle party, well, of course, we have the luau coming up today. That'll be a big deal. The mingle party on May 31st, that'll be here in the Longwood Room, and that's one where the current residents meet the new residents, and please mark your calendars for that. This year it'll be, or this particular time, you'll mark down the state that you affiliate yourself with, and they're going to try to seek people of like backgrounds together. Two things coming up. At the council meeting, Steve Gus said it's about time we resurrect our sports challenge. That is a tradition here at Village on the Green that had to take backseat, of course, during the pandemic. But it's a big deal event. We have a target date of November 15th. That's going to give all of us time to go out and play the various games that we do have available to us. But in the past, this involved even more than that. We had cheerleaders, we had our anthem, we had the salute, we all marched into the Longwood Room. It was a big deal, and we would like to get back to that. That's part of our community togetherness. So keep that in mind. That's for November 15th. A talent show came up at the social committee. That's another thing that's one of our community things, and that has a target date of September 27th. I know we've got talent here, and we've got people we've discovered who sing well. We certainly have people who play the accordion. We've got all kinds of stuff. So, think about that for September. There'll be more about that. Let's see. I've done that. I wanted to mention that on the Brady Wilkins Scholarship Program, the 10 servers who received awards were notified on May 4th. That's the overall scholarship program. 9 of the awards come from Brady Wilkins. One comes from LifeSpace. And this is the first, again, this is the first time that we will have an awards ceremony that combines both providers of scholarships. And that award is Monday, June 5th. That award dinner is Monday, June 5th, and it's in the Palm Court. That's another community-wide, very special event. I'm just skipping back and forth to the things that I find. Finance Committee met, Neighbor to Neighbor met. They met, Al met with Megan the other day, and they're working with the sales bunch to what am I trying to say, in their outreach efforts. Mindy reported that the Move-In Buddy Subcommittee has had wonderful success in welcoming new residents, and residents have been volunteering to be move-in buddies. I think that's a wonderful sign, so keep that up. In healthcare, we have the massage therapist who's been identified, and we have a room with an electric table, thank you. All sitting there waiting to be used. The mobile dental service that Missy discussed that they're going to use for assisted living in the health center, Dick has reservations about still. He's not quite ready to recommend it for independent living, so stay tuned for that. I think more on that. And of course, we still have to establish our first aid for independent residents. That's just an ongoing thing that we're working on. In the plant committee, we discussed the capital gains being having been received, and that was mentioned. The other thing that came up had to do with some trees that were particularly questionable. One near Villa 412. The arborist from, I guess, part of the DS landscaping service, they've addressed a lot of trees that need attention, and the areas where trees do need to be removed, and so that'll be in the future plan to do that. Let's see, I'm flipping back and forth here. Touchtown came up. We still don't have the information updated. And Joey mentioned that at Westminster, they developed a committee of residents, vetted residents, to address that, where residents would lend help in keeping the app up to date. He said it took them about a year to get that up and running, where it was a smooth operation. But I thought that was a hopeful sign, because it takes a lot of resource to keep that app up to date, but it's so important to keep it current. So maybe in the future we'll be able to help with that. A question arose about Facebook and what pictures of us can appear on Facebook. I think Joey wants to check with LifeSpace about the, whether we need photo releases or something official to do more on that. I think that's about it. In the buildings, building reports, the lounges in A, lounge in A is finished. The lounge in B is finished and usable. Building D's building party was canceled because of the dishwasher problem. I've got 1 minute left here. And so they'll reschedule that. In Building F, they only have 15 units occupied in Building F. That's astounding, isn't it? Doris Engelhardt is relocated to the assisted living. So for those of you who didn't know that. I think the noise goes on in Building E, that's for renovations. And Dr. Abbas noted that he has about an 80% attendance in his Villa 1 meetings, and the newcomers are very eager to participate, so I think that's good news. And I think that's about all, unless there are any questions from anybody. Well, let's call this meeting adjourned. Our next, this type of meeting is on June 7th. That'll be here. And our next resident council meeting will be June 1st. Okay? Thank you very much.
Yes, I am.